Well, we are here again with another Travel Live PA, and I'm really excited about this one. This will be our last Travel Live PA of the year. We will go into 2023 and have a whole new season ahead of us, but I think you may remember, this is kind of a joint hosting thing. I'm Joyce Davis. I'm president and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg, and I'm joined by
Jeb Stewart
and
Cole Goodman.
And Cole Goodman is the co-host. That's exactly right. So Cole Goodman and I have been doing these as a way to publicize and promote attractions inside Pennsylvania, and frankly, this season inside Dauphin County. We know we have a very good following internationally, around the country as well as internationally. And we want to let these visitors know of all the wonderful things there are to do in Dauphin County. And Cole, do you remember the first one we started with? Where did we send them to? The first one?
It was Hershey Park, wasn't it?
Hershey Park. We had to, of course, let people know about the wonderful things at Hershey Park. But you know, it hasn't just been that. We also recently did one with the Civic Club of Harrisburg, where we talked about the Women's History Garden, and I think you were there for that one too, right?
And that one was really powerful, especially highlighting many of the important women that have played a role in the city and in Dauphin County. That was just such a real powerful one.
Well, before we get started on this one, which I know will be of great interest to people, I do want to thank the Dauphin County Tourism Department, because it is making this event and these events possible. So we thank them for the grant that will allow us to do these webinars, and hopefully we will continue to focus and highlight wonderful attractions in our own region. And so for now, we are going to step in to talking about an exhibit that is kind of gathering a lot of interest in our region. And Jeb, before we do, let's let them know who's here. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and of course everybody in this area knows Jeb Stewart is one
one way or the other, I guess.
Historians and activists, but tell them a little bit about it.
Yeah, I've been a Harrisburg citizen for years. My most recent involvement has been preservation advisor to the Historic Harrisburg Association. And I've done a lot of work with the group in terms of special events, exhibits, and other committees that I serve on. I've also in the past been past chair of the Harrisburg Parks Foundation. I serve on the board of the Dauphin County Historical Society. And there have been other projects over the years that I've been involved with, primarily through community development and historic preservation. Years ago, I staffed the Architects Review Board when we got the historic districts moving back in the 70s. And I also served as city clerk to city council for several years. So I have kind of a broad background in the city, one way or the other, through various applications.
Very good. And Cole, perhaps you would like to welcome our second guest.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so happy to have you here, Mr. Jackson. And if you'd like to just give a short of your background and where you're from and what you're doing currently.
Thank you. I am a proud resident of Harrisburg for 92 years. My family had various businesses in Harrisburg, barbershop, hotels, other things. I went through the Harrisburg school system, and I worked at the Harrisburg Post Office, retired from the Harrisburg Post Office. I've been on the Harrisburg School Board, and I've just served the community for quite a while, and I enjoy Harrisburg history.
And not only that, you are renowned, Mr. Jackson, renowned as a historian, especially one who has taken some time to delve into African-American history.
Yes.
And so we salute you for that. Absolutely. We have to acknowledge that. And you have got great partners with Jeb. And of course, the person who's not here right now, David Morrison. These are really renowned people in
yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah.
So the one thing, Joyce, if I may, that I wanted to mention that Caleb and I have done together is the Commonwealth Monument Project through the Harrisburg Peace Promenade, which recently was erected over the past year at 4th Street and Capitol Park. And that was a major effort and deals with African-American history. And Caleb, of course, was a tremendous resource in helping to put that together.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. The topic we're having today is that we understand you guys have really worked hard to pull together an exhibit that looks at what we call Harrisburg's hidden African American neighbor or vanished African American neighborhood. So let's see if I can share my screen so we can pull up some of the PowerPoints that we're having here to look at this. So let's see.
There you go.
I guess I'm going to start by asking one of Jeb, how did all this come about?
Well, it started with actually the Foundation for Enhancing Communities approach to Historic Harrisburg to see if the association would be willing to put together an exhibit that traced African American heritage in the city. And there's so much, that could be defined one way or the other. We came up with trying to recognize the 8th Ward and the 7th Ward. And Caleb, feel free to jump in here because I don't want to be too wordy. The 8th Ward, of course, being that area between the old Capitol, the neighborhood, primarily African American, but also Jewish Americans and Italian Americans, that was demolished between 1911 and 1922 for the expansion of the Capitol complex. And what this exhibit shows is a montage of an aerial of that 8th Ward in 1881 in the upper left-hand corner, and then several street shots of the buildings, typical buildings in the 8th Ward. The 8th Ward was primarily between Walnut and North Streets originally, and then it was expanded. When I say expanded, the demolition, unfortunately, was expanded from North to Forster Street in the 1950s.
Correct.
For the newer buildings of the Capitol complex, such as the Health and Welfare Building, the State Museum, and the State Archives. Caleb, I don't know if you want to add to what I was saying.
No, you're correct. You're correct. There were two basic expansions. One, like I said, before 1920, and the other one after World War II.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And then moving from there, if we're going to take a broader overview, we wanted to look at the 7th Ward, just north of Forster Street, the lower end of the 7th Ward, that also resulted in mass demolition, this time not by the state government, but by the redevelopment authority through the federal government, through urban renewal activities of the 1960s, which involved mass clearance of neighborhoods thought to be marginalized or whatever at that time for new development. So we had the Jackson Lick Apartments. We had, of course, the Ben Franklin School, the Labor and Industry Building, the townhouse apartments. And there we have an area that at that time, of course, mass demolition was thought to be the way to go. Now, of course, we encourage community conservation and historic preservation. So that if it were to happen today, it may not have happened the same way.
I see. What is this church right in here that I'm?
Why don't you take that one, Caleb?
Which church are you looking at?
Briggs Street,
The old
upper
Bethel
left-hand
Church.
corner.
Look
Yeah.
at the Bethel Church on Briggs. Is that correct? The Bethel Church on Briggs?
Yes.
Yes, that was originally in the old 8th Ward. It was torn down around 1914, and they moved to Briggs Street and opened up the Bethel AME Church there. After a while, they had to relocate again. They were only there maybe 35 or 40 years, and they eventually bought the old Ridge Avenue Church at 6th and Hurst Street.
Yeah, what Caleb is describing is really the Bethel Trail. And that's another tourism piece, as it were, with outdoor
Correct.
markers that trace the original Bethel Church that was down near the train station built in the 1830s. And had to keep moving northward because of the expansion of the Capitol complex.
Capitol,
And
correct.
so there was one on Short Street, then there was one on State Street, same congregation, but it had to keep moving because of demolition. And the more recent one, of course, was at Her and 6th Street. And that was the one that burned in the mid 1990s. And now Bethel is up on 5th Street. So we traced the whole chronology of Bethel Church from the 1830s up to today, showing how the movement of the church at different locations was synonymous to the expansion of the Capitol complex.
So my question here is, how did you compile all of this information? You start off by saying that there's so much that you probably had to, comb through and read. So how did you compile all the information, and also the new beautiful monument? I wanted to ask, could you tell us more about that, and not only what it took to erect that monument, but some of the history of that monument as well?
As far as the collection of the information, Caleb and I were involved a couple of years ago in putting together the Race Against Racism, which was a 5K race sponsored by the YWCA. And we selected a new route, not Riverfront Park, not City Island, but 6th Street and 7th Street. We wanted to have the race go through
Old neighborhoods, yes.
Yeah, old neighborhoods. And many of the sites are gone, but we wanted to at least document where they were. So there was already a database that Caleb was able to generate through his own archives of information that then we drew upon in order to create this exhibit. That was just one of many sources. We also used the Historical Society of Dauphin County's archives. The Historic Harrisburg Association has archives. Dave Houseseel, who's well known as a firefighter and a historian, had some information for us. Caleb, of course, has his own personal archives.
Right.
And so that's just an idea of what we had.
So this is
And
really been a community project. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Cole.
And I'm sorry, just a little follow up on that, Mr. Caleb. When you say that you have a personal archive, could you maybe give one or two of some of the favorite things that you, while you were compiling this information, that really brought you back to, either your childhood or fond memories of places that used to been? Like, what were your favorite things that came out of the exhibit and such?
Well, I've been a photographer since I was about 13 or 14 years old. So I've been taking pictures of old Harrisburg for a long time. And many of the vanished neighborhood streets and whatnot, I have pictures of that I enjoy. The neighborhoods that changed are very vivid in my mind because of the people that lived in the neighborhood stores, the local people, the local churches, the small communities that we went to talked with, and communities. We just sort of hung out as kids. We sort of hung out on the corners. For instance, the old Foster Street Y was a great place for young people to hang out. We had a swimming pool. We had a basketball court. We had a pool room, and it was just a nice place to hang out. It was comfortable, and we enjoyed the camaraderie. So that I remember.
Wow, those are great memories there.
Yes.
I also wanted to ask you just to tell the people that are joining us, where can they see if they visit Harrisburg right now, where is this exhibit?
It's at the Historic Harrisburg Association's Resource Center at 3rd and Verbeck, the old bank building directly across the street from the Broad Street Market.
Okay.
And it's open daily. The exhibit is up and will continue to be up, I think, for another couple of weeks. At some point, it may go online. We'll have to check with the folks at Historic Harrisburg to see if that can happen. But as far as the tangible exhibit, they're 16 by 24-inch panels, dry mounted, and they're on the teller lines going in because it was a bank. So it's very easy to see.
Yeah, and that actually, it's worth a visit if you're in town. That whole area there around 3rd Street, and you can go to the bookstore, the Midtown Sky, and then you can go over to
the great area.
It is a great area for people to visit.
Very much so.
So tell me, you were talking, Mr. Caleb, about how you used to hang out at the Y and all that. So tell us, what is the old Phyllis Wheatley YWCA about?
Well, the Phyllis Wheatley Y basically was the girls' Y,
Mm-hmm.
and that was located at Briggs and Cowden Street. And it was for young women. They didn't have a swimming pool. They were able to use the swimming pool at the boys' Y. Miss Frazier, who's featured on one of the panels, was the executive director of the Girls Y, and she provided a lot of activities for young girls, especially the ones in junior high school and high school. They had activities for them to come in. They could come into the Y and sort of communicate together, and they shared memories, and they had different activities for women that really provided training for these young women.
Yeah, I see the picture here. That's why I went back to the first slide of Ella Frazier, and she was the director of it.
Ella
Huh?
Frazier, yes. Yes.
So
The
there.
one thing, if
Go
I
ahead.
may, Joyce, one of your questions, of course, talks about a connection to the past with the same people as to today, if there may be a connection. Well, Caleb, forgive me for jumping ahead, but your dad was very prominent in Jackson Square as a barber.
Yes, he was.
And
Yes.
that's Caleb's dad's barber shop right there. In the
Right here. Is that it
center.
there?
Yeah,
Wow.
there. Right.
Wow.
Right on the front, yes.
And that's located in what is now called Jackson Square, which was the area, it was really a remnant that's left of the lower end of the 7th Ward, between Bow Street and Her Street and along 6th. And the building is still there. Unfortunately, we lost the Jackson House a year or two ago, which was part of it too. But at least Caleb's dad's barbershop's still there, and that's important.
Actually,
That is awesome.
the Curtis Funeral Home was on the corner. My dad's barber shop was next. The Jackson House was next. And then Ruth Rowland Beauty Shop, and then the church. And that's the only, basically, that's the only remaining block of that old neighborhood. Everything else was torn down.
Mm.
So,
Or fell
Miss-
down,
or fell down.
Fell down.
Fell
Or fell
down.
down, correct.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jackson, talking about your dad's barbershop, and historically in the Black community for generations, the barbershop is really the place where everyone went to talk, where everyone went to gossip, where everyone went to see what was going on. So could you talk about that a little and how the significance of your father's barbershop it was for the community?
And the barbershop was also listed in the Green Book. It was listed in the Green Book. Yes, we have.
Wow.
I have a. There's one panel that I'm looking at here that shows the Green Book. I don't know if you have that one. It shows the Green Book. It lists the hotels. It lists tourist home. It lists the barbershop. But the barbershop, as you say, it was a place not just for people to go and get haircuts. It was a place to hang out. It was a place where people went to talk. They went to talk. We didn't have TVs in those days. My dad's barbershop had all the newspapers, Harrisburg, Philadelphia. A lot of people don't realize that the Black papers, Philadelphia Courier, Pittsburgh Courier, Philadelphia Tribune, New York, Amsterdam News, all those papers were sold in Harrisburg.
Huh.
And they had columns. They had reporters in Harrisburg that had columns in those papers that told the social news of Harrisburg.
Wow.
So although the local Patriot News didn't always carry the African-American social news, the Black papers did. And people came to the barbershop to read the papers, to discuss the things that were in the paper. They talk all the church news, all the gossip, all the good things and bad things. But it was a place,
good and bad. Yeah.
it was a place where people enjoyed going and talking and enjoying good conversation.
And I'm assuming that gave him a pretty good level of income, right? I mean, that I'm assuming your family was one of the elite of the African-American community. Is that right?
Well, I actually they were. I wouldn't want to say it that way, but they really were.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's surprising how popular barbers and beauticians were. Barbers, beauticians, the African American doctors, dentists, and so forth. They were probably they were well known because they were all in the community. For one thing, everything was in a local community. All the doctors, the lawyers, everything, all in the African American community within walking distance.
Sure. Now, tell me, Jeb, what's this mural here? I see Satchmo. Now, that's not Harrisburg. That's from where I'm originally from, New Orleans.
Where?
In this mural.
Oh, that was the mural that was on the side of the Jackson House.
Yes.
And the reason
Yes.
why those performers are on there is because they stayed there.
Yes.
Louis Armstrong and tell
Ella
me, Caleb, who else
Fitzgerald,
is on
yes.
there? Ella Fitzgerald.
Cab Calloway.
Yep. They also, and that was terrible. It was lost. That was a rooming house. And of course, those guys, unfortunately, were not allowed to stay at the Penn Harris or the
Yes,
Harrisburg because of being African American at that time. So German Jackson, who ran it, stepped up and opened it as a rooming house or small hotel
Yes.
and catered to these people. And we wanted to memorialize that through that mural. And unfortunately, everything went when it collapsed a year or so ago.
Wow.
At least we have it documented visually.
Yes,
And
we do have
it
it
can be
documented.
recreated. That would somewhere appropriately. That would be something to look forward to. If that can be done.
It's been mentioned they may recreate that mural somewhere. I'm not sure how that's working, but there's been talk they'd like to recreate that somewhere in the city.
Yeah, Cale, there was talk about trying to rebuild the Jackson House, but I think those
Yeah.
plans went down the tubes for now, but I don't know.
Yes.
But at least we have it
we got
documented.
it.
It's important.
Well, we got to get that conversation started again in the city.
Yes.
That's right.
Like just hearing the people that stayed there and experienced Harrisburg, that's a treasure that we can't lose. That is a treasure we cannot lose. And Jeb, I wanted to ask you when you were going over all of these historical documents and going back through the history of the African American community in Harrisburg, is there one particular either story or person that really stuck out to you that maybe made you choke up, or something that really got you emotional? Because studying history is emotional and can be heart-wrenching a lot of the time.
Well, collectively, Cole, it has. I don't know if there's one particular thing. It's the loss that occurred, which is kind of heart-wrenching. When you look at these beautiful buildings and people that ran them who were important in the community, such as the Potter Hotel here, that what you're looking at,
Yes.
I mean, it's gone, and there's one after the next that are like that. I don't know if anyone in particular stood out other than the Jackson House, which is very recent and very significant. That was heart-wrenching. I can tell you that, although it was deteriorating over a period of time, and unfortunately it was not arrested. But to answer your question, that would be an example. And as long as we're on this frame, if I may, one thing we tried to do with this exhibit that I don't think has been done otherwise is to show where the building would have been located today. And these are Google Earth aerial shots, which are really cool because Google Earth now has done a tremendous job with 3D imagery. And we tried to find the address. We tried to correlate it to the atlas, which is below. The atlas documenting the period, and I think that might be the 1929 atlas, I'm not sure. And then to correlate where that would have been geographically to what's there today. And lo and behold, it looks like it's behind the Harrisburg School District building there on what would have been Cumberland Street extended. All right there, Caleb.
Right. It would be Cumberland Street, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's another interesting element to this exhibit, is trying to do, again, using Google Earth technology and historic atlases, which we're able to find through Penn State libraries. You can access them, they're free. and you can download portions of them if need be. There's a 1929 atlas. There's some from the 1880s and 90s. The 1929 is really a good one, but there are earlier ones too that may have documented buildings that didn't exist until the 20s. So you have to kind of look at a chronology of what might exist, what's existed.
Well, I think what's also fascinating is how you guys have kind of uncovered all of these the people who clearly were incredible people during their times. I mean, the Richard Felton, who became owner of this hotel, and I mean, you've really just uncovered a wealth of information about some movers and shakers that helped make the whole region, I'm thinking.
And Joyce, on this one, when we had the exhibit opening at Historic Harrisburg, Danielle Bowers, who's president of City Council,
Yes.
came over to that exhibit. And Caleb, what did she say? That was my great-grandfather?
That's her great grandfather. Yeah, Richard.
There you go.
Well, I'm
just
sorry,
having that connection was
Daniel
spectacular.
Potter.
Right.
Daniel Potter.
Right.
Okay. Well, it says, yeah, Daniel Potter acquired what was earlier known as the Wallace Hotel. And then Richard Felton later became the owner in 1946.
Correct.
But his son apparently was a jazz saxophone player, right?
Yes.
Ah, wow. And was involved in Masonic activities.
His name was Diddy Potter. He played with a lot of the major bands, Dizzy Gillespie, Count Basie. He was a major performer on the alto saxophone.
Wow. Well, we hear about New Orleans jazz. We're going to have to start documenting Harrisburg jazz.
Oh, yes. Well, Harrisburg has a lot of jazz history. Oh, yes.
Really? See, I don't think that's something that a lot of people know. Now, wouldn't it
That's
be
something we could talk about sometime. Yes.
Wouldn't it be great to resurrect some sort of jazz club, historic jazz club, and have these names remembered?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great idea. And it wouldn't be that difficult to do either.
It wouldn't be, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
And especially since you have all the information, but
We have the information, yes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I just want to go back a little bit because there are other people featured in here. I see your grandfather's barbershop there, but who's this gentleman with the glasses there?
That's German Jackson, who ran the Jackson House.
Okay, he ran the Jackson House.
Yes.
Okay,
And he was also Caleb at the Penn Harris Hotel. He was
captain of the Bell.
captain of the Bell. Yeah.
Of the Bell Boys at Penn Harris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was quite a lucrative job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What did he have to do? What was his duties?
At Penn Harris?
Yeah.
He was in charge of the Bell Boys that brought luggage and things into
I
the
see. He
hotel.
was supervisor. Yeah.
Supervisor, yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And this building up here to the right, what is that?
That's the Forster Street YMCA.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
that's
that's the one I mentioned. Yes, that was a very beautiful building. It reminds you of an English
manor
tavern.
house. Yeah, it does.
You can look at the architecture. It reminds you of an English tavern with the beautiful wood, heavy wood frame pillars, tiled floors. Just an absolutely beautiful building.
And how long has that been gone?
That's been gone since about 1960. Actually, if you've been into the YMCA at Front and North,
Yeah.
they were both opened around the same time. They were both open within 6 weeks of each other.
Really?
In 1933.
Okay.
So they if you look at the Y that's there now, that'll give you an idea of what the Foster Street Y looked like inside.
Oh my goodness.
And it's the parking garage adjacent to the L&I building is where it was situated.
Okay.
Even though that parking garage was built decades later.
Now, who are these gentlemen at the bottom here?
Caleb, I'll defer to you.
I'm looking at
The bottom, but there's a bunch of men out there with hats and coats on, so it must be winter.
Oh, that's a picture of the old Y. See, the Foster Street Y was not the first Y. That was the Y when it was on Broad Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's a picture probably back in the 1920s
Okay.
of
Yeah.
the old Y before they moved to Foster Street.
Right. And
So
I
it's the same organization, but just an older concept, older building.
now, what is this Annals of Blessed Martin de Porres House of Hospitality?
Yeah, that's on 7th Street. That was a Catholic church reach out that was on 7th Street near her.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that was a place where people could hang out and
Oh,
just
yes.
relax.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Now, each one of these images, even though it's in a collage, is in its standalone exhibit within the exhibit. So you can see that where it was situated, whether there's an atlas to point to the building, and also an aerial shot showing what it is today. So again, this collage is meant to be a table of contents. And then when you get into the exhibit, you'll see each one of these featured with text and more information.
So Jeb, tell us how many, if someone they coming and they want to see this, how many exhibits, how many slides or whatever that you guys have up on posters will they be able to see?
There are 35.
Right.
39. Okay.
35 total.
Very good.
And we've done other exhibits at Historic Harrisburg also, and they're usually around along the same length. One was done a couple of years ago in downtown retail, as an example. One on the City Beautiful movement. On this one, if I may, Joyce, this is a really, and Caleb, thank you for sharing the shot on the left. That's an aerial of the lower end of the 7th Ward,
Yes.
after it was demolished, with the townhouse under construction, townhouse apartments, and the L&I building in the foreground. And then on the right is the view today, with the exception of the new federal building, which wasn't captured yet on Google Earth, but will be. And then the center is an aerial shot trying to capture the same neighborhood from 1932. So it shows how urbanized it was and how contiguous it was as a neighborhood. And then you can drop down and see what was happening in 1960 with this demolition. And then to the right, what the neighborhood looks like today.
Wow, you guys have really done some incredible research here. But I have to tell you, there must have been a lot of heartache associated with this demolition. I mean, people clearly lost their homes, right?
Yes.
Was there any movement to try to help support these people to find them new homes, or were they just on their own?
I think basically they were just on their own. When their houses were taken, they were compensated for the property they had, but they had to go out and search for new property. Some stayed in the city, some moved out of the city. There was a movement right after World War II of some African Americans that moved out on Victoria Avenue. Victoria Avenue is out near Lowe's, where Lowe's, the Lowe's on 22 is located.
Oh, yes, I know it well.
Yes. Well, there was a small African American community in there on Victoria Avenue for a while. But eventually, suburbia disappeared because of the stores and the urbanization. Everything just disappeared out there. So that neighborhood also vanished.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Just amazing images.
It really is. It really, it's fascinating. The other question that though I do want to ask you as we draw to a close, because I know, I know I applaud Jeb for hanging in here because he's not feeling the best. So, but
I feel better now that I'm talking to you guys.
Oh, good. Good. But I do have to ask, as you look at this, and if you just had, everything that you needed, what would you do now to better document or to kind of recreate some of what was lost. Is there anything that you would think the city or the state or the county could be doing to kind of
Well,
reclaim some of this?
we have, as part of the exhibit, we have the last several panels talks about commemorations, just not history, but where we're going into the future. And I have it up in front of me now. You don't have the whole exhibit, but one talks about the Commonwealth Monument Project
Yes.
in Capitol Park that honors T. Morris Chester, William Howard Day, Jacob Compton, and the lady, help me, Caleb, the woman,
Francis Ellen Harper.
Frances Harper, yes.
Mhm.
And there's a pedestal in the center of that exhibit, of that statuary, that has a miniaturized version of the 8th Ward on top of it in 3D format.
Yes.
So a lot of work was done with the foundry in Lancaster that we worked with to do a lot of historic research, try to do isometric drawings and so forth to come up with the proper context for creating this 3D model that's on top of the pedestal. So that's one thing. The creation of the T. Morris Chester Way along Walnut Street was something that has been done over the past year as a secondary name for that street, for Walnut Street, which connects the Commonwealth Monument to the McCormick Public Library at Front and Walnut, that now also hosts the T. Morris Chester Center as a research area. So there are a number of things that are falling into place that continues the legacy of this exhibit and many others for that matter, which honors the African-American community. We also have a walking tour brochure that highlights all the African-American standalone landmarks
Correct.
in the Capitol complex in the Central Business District, above and beyond the 8th Ward and the 7th Ward. So there's a lot out there. It's just a matter of bringing it together, promoting it, and expanding upon it.
Yeah, I think that walking tour, I think, would be fascinating for visitors from out of town and certainly from overseas to know
Yes.
about.
Yes, it would be.
I'm assuming it's done in the spring and summer, not in the winter, but tell me about this. How do people know about this? Where would they go? Is that again going to the historic district office or?
Well, historic Harrisburg would be a location. I'm not sure. I think Hershey Harrisburg Regional Visitors Bureau may have some of the content. If they don't, we can assist them getting more of it. The T. Morris Center on Walnut Street, part of the library. Now that just opened, so I'm not quite sure the extent to which it's been, stocked with material, but that is another destination, as well as the downtown welcome center at 2nd and Walnut Street. So there's 4 good locations where people can go to get more information. And if they don't have it there, they can call around, and especially with Historic Harrisburg, and we can try and make that information available.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we could do, Cole, I think, is to maybe link to some of this on the World Affairs Council's page and let
Absolutely.
our
Okay, that
council,
would be nice.
the nation
Absolutely.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also making sure that, we have people coming from overseas, making sure they experience and learn about all of this history when it comes to Harrisburg, because it's just so fascinating.
I mean, that's
It
one of the
is.
questions I had too. I mean, you gentlemen have really done yeoman's work in pulling this together, but we have to make sure the next generation carries on. And so that's why I'm glad to have Cole here learning from you guys, because the young people have to take this on and make sure what you've done continues to live.
That's
Agreed.
correct. You're correct.
Absolutely. And like, I coach soccer at John Harris. I'm one of the soccer coaches, and like we tell our kids, you can't understand where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. This is just so important for the next generation, my generation, to understand.
Well,
Congratulations on your great soccer season.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you were talking about your time at John Harris or whatever, I was wondering if you played soccer, Caleb.
No, I didn't. I ran track, other things, but never Soccer, for whatever reason, when I was young, was not very popular.
Right.
But it's great to see it's popular now, and it's a great sport.
It is.
Outstanding sport. And I'm so proud that Harrisburg had such a great team this year.
Absolutely. And we're gonna have an even better one next year. We're working hard.
They've already started practicing for next year, I hear, so. But anyway, I do want to hats off to both of you for the great work. And of course, to Historic Harrisburg, David Morrison isn't here, but that, and also TFAC, as you said, it was actually our dear friend Janice Black
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
Foundation for Enhancing
Yes.
Community that wanted to make sure this was done. So kudos to a community coming together to remember its wonderful heritage. And and basically what we're going to do is join hands with you, promote this to people coming, and also turn it over to young people like Cole to keep the legacy alive.
Yes, keep it alive.
Absolutely. Well, I
Absolutely.
want to thank you all for participating, and we'll be looking forward also once you know where the exhibit will go next. I know the Civic Club has also
Sure.
asked to perhaps host it there.
That'd
for
be
a
great
while.
there. That
I
would be
think it would be
perfect.
beautiful there. You
That
could
would be
walk through.
awesome, yeah.
Yeah,
It would
and
be.
I could see having maybe monthly talk, even with some tea or hot, and have people come and have a talk. And the two of you would make an excellent historians to talk about what we're seeing in some of those. So stay tuned. You may have more
We
work
will.
yet. All right.
Thank you very much, Joyce, for putting this together, and happy holidays to everyone here. And we appreciate very much the
Thank you.
opportunity.
And I really enjoyed this session. Yes.
I did too. I did. And we learned so much. And again, we owe you a great debt. So please know your work is appreciated.
Thank
Thank
All
you,
right.
George. Hey, Cole, good talking to you too.
Good seeing you. Very good seeing you. Great talking to you.
Likewise.
Bye, guys.